The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
Good evening, everybody. Y'all know what time it is right about now, wherever you are, wherever you may be listening. Yes, it's me. I am here. Welcome to another episode. I'm pretty sure I'm nearing double digits at this point, but it is Point of Viewer. Now, this week's episode, it occurs at an interesting time. I'm pretty certain that I'm going to be one of the last people to wish for Americans who celebrate a happy 4th of July. Definitely one of the last people. There's a shout out to all my Canadian friends. Happy Canada Day. I hope everyone on both sides of the 49th parallel had a very good weekend. I myself was lucky enough to wiggle my way into a 4-day weekend, but more about that in a few minutes. As I said, this episode comes at an interesting time, and it's not going to be like your usual episodes. And don't be surprised if this one winds up a little bit short. Normally, I am, unscathed from holiday weekends as far as chaos and conundrums in my life, but this year, this particular holiday, not so much the case. I'm going to start, though, by getting a couple of topics out of the way, because I need to go easy, warm everybody up. Consider this your courtesy tap. I'm going to use lube, going to get some spit, going to warm things up a little bit, put my fingers a few places, so don't say that I didn't. But to start off, this particular past weekend was Surf and Stillwell, Coney Island, Nathan's hot dog eating contest. Now, as I've said in my last episode, there are a lot of factors depending on how performers would do, what would be the winning number. And I thought that it was going to be very low based upon qualifiers. Now, as my friend who's most likely listening, and I'm pretty sure he thinks I'm dodging his calls. More on that in another time. But he was good enough to put out the weather report. Because believe it or not, weather is a big factor in how the eaters are. Just like with any athletic contest, wet bulb, heat, humidity, wind, etc., etc. Now, for the women's contest, which I'm going to be honest, I slept through because the night before I was up until 4 in the morning writing, I happened to miss it. So I caught those results a little bit later. So once I got the message of Miki Sudo winning, which is her 4th belt, I really wasn't surprised. 41 hot dogs is very good for a women's contest. Close to the record, Sonia Thomas, the Black Widow herself, 45. But what I noticed was Thomas came in 3rd. For years, she was trying to push through the 30s, get into 40, which she eventually did, but now she's fallen way back. Michelle Lesko, relative newcomer, she came in second with 32. So, I think just like with the men, you're seeing Miki Sudo create a women's dynasty. Which, for the hot dog eating contest, is never a bad thing. Like Kobayashi, like Chestnut, you always want to see the one person come up to see really if anybody's going to go and take her down. So I'm fine with this, but I also want to see how long Miki Sudo can run. Will she tie Kobayashi 7-8 in a row? Will she tie Joey Chestnut 8-9 in a row? Who's to say? We've got time. But this is going to be a developing story in the women's tournament. Now on to the men's tournament. Just when you thought Chestnut was out, just when you thought that Megatoad Matt Stoney would come in, pass the torch and create the new dynasty, Chestnut comes back with a vengeance. He not only won, he set a record. Now he currently holds the world record at 73. But he did this at a qualifier. He hasn't really hit that magic number of 70 on the big stage. Until now. Seeing the first couple of minutes of the contest, Chestnut was on pace for, and this is no joke, 100. And in a 10-minute contest, to keep up a 10 or 11 dog per minute pace for 3.5, almost 4 minutes, that is insane. Now, he did fall back a bit, but by the time that he was coming back to Earth, he was still way too far gone. He wound up finishing with a July 4th record, 72. 72, winning by double digits over Chinkati, another newcomer. Megatoad finishing in third with 48. So now Chestnut becomes the first man ever to win 10 mustard belts. Now there was talk of him leaving Major League Eating, talks of him leaving the hot dog contest, but at this point, why bother? If you've got this in the tank and you want to keep pushing through, get your cash, get your bragging rights, come out being lifted on the chair, so be it. So be it. Now granted, one of these years I'm going to have to actually find my way to Coney Island instead of buying Nathan's from the store and celebrating at home, but this year was not meant to be. But congratulations to the winners. George Shea, a little bit drier this year than usual. I don't know what's going on with him. Maybe a mild case of writer's block, something, but he could have been better. But I'm not going to let that dampen my spirits. I didn't then, I'm not now. He was out in the hat and the suit on a nice 80-degree day, clear skies, humidity not a problem, and we saw another 10 minutes of greatness, another 10 minutes of dominance from Chestnut. And for a kind of thing to wind down the 4th of July weekend, it was always a good sight to see. Then I could eat a couple of hot dogs myself. Normally I eat them before, but for some reason, waking up that late in the day, watching the contest, made me hungry. Made me hungry. Now, for a quick bit on this week in misery, and I guarantee you it's going to be quick because everything is just flat out batshit. Representative Steve Scalise back in the hospital after the whack job went ahead and shot up the baseball practice. It was concerns over an infection. He is, at the time of this broadcast, in serious condition, so a lot of positive vibes out to him, because although his policies are fucking retarded, the man still needs to be home with his family. He deserves that much as a human being and as a father and as a husband. Maybe this will give him a second wake-up call as to the stupidity that he does at his job. That's not for me to say. But between this, forged documents coming out, and a crusade against the media, what was a little bit of a work at WrestleMania between Donald Trump and McMahon himself taking a bump, that thanks to a CNN logo and a Reddit troll who's got nothing better to do with his life, that's turned into a war against CNN. 4chan's even gotten involved against CNN. So much for the whole not your personal army bullshit. People getting pissed off, not paying attention to the Declaration of Independence. The right-wingers and the inbreeds, the rednecks, joining in on the bandwagon through Twitter, further feeding the idiocracy, saying that NPR is going against Trump. Never mind the fact that they read the Declaration of Independence on the air every July 4th since 1988, 89, thereabouts. Almost as long as I've been alive. But no, NPR being clever and with the times, doing it on Twitter. People don't know how to behave themselves. Then you've got what's going on. Putin, he's preparing for a little sleepover with Trump. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson and the Russian counterparts are only 4 men who are going to be in the room. God, this just screams pathetic. All of this on the heels of Trump going to Poland and giving a rousing speech to a nation that's going back to communist ways, especially in terms of the news media, how things are portrayed. On the heels of the G20 summit, where there's already been violent protests. And these aren't even all for Trump. These are just anti-G20. Message that a sick and tired populace is sending out to some of the powers that be. You see all this going on and you wonder, what's going to be the button? What is going to be that push that finally sets everything in motion that gets Trump out of office? Russia? Syria? North Korea getting weapons that are in a high likelihood coming from China? What is it going to take? What's going to be the impetus for the chain of events that sees Trump go somewhere? Walking out of the White House into a helicopter Nixon style, or being led away in handcuffs? There's a myriad of possibilities. Special Prosecutor Robert Mueller strengthening his team. Former U.S. District Attorney for New York specifically where Trump Tower is located. Preet Bharara, Nolan Muller's team, now getting a show with Cafe.com. Brilliant move by them. But what is it going to take? What will this all be? It will help us breathe a little easier during the day and sleep a little easier at night. Because I would like to know. I think we all would. Alright. Now that everybody's nice and lubed up, everything's nice and wet, I'm going to slide right in. Time is very, very funny. Time is very, very fickle. Very deceiving. Very nebulous. Sitting here right now, we're only in the first week of July. By the time you get this, it'll be the weekend. You blink, and then we're at the All-Star game. Blink again, and we're at the end of the Tour de France. Then it's August, countdown until kids go back to school, and Labor Day and all this and that. Football season and basketball season, World Series. Things just flow like that. Time was a weird thing that happened to me this weekend. Now, through a series of weird incidences, some very nice replica championship rings that I got as a birthday present from Mom. Wonderful woman. I was just sitting by, minding my own business, watching different shows. I remember the teams that I got the rings from. The Reds when they won the World Series in '90. Saints Super Bowl ring, Cowboys, Packers Super Bowl rings. All pretty cool. Heavy as a motherfucker, though. Still cool to wear. Now, I was thinking to myself, because you give different players different rings and stuff, and I thought, oh, please, which ones would I be getting? Kind of joking around. I saw when Aaron Rodgers was on a $100,000 pyramid, and I was thinking to myself, oh, I might have gotten his. I don't think so. Come to find out I get the ring, whose name do I see? And then a little while later, as I was looking at that ring, we were going over the orders, and one of the Cowboys ring came up. And I knew it was from the early 70s. 71 when they won their first one. And I just said out loud, yeah, watch that one, it'll be Roger Staubach's. I opened up the ring. First name that catches my eye, right there. So I knew it was a very weird air. Me speaking things into the universe. Another incident was, well, with my main conundrum, she happens to have a little business where she goes on Facebook and opens up pearl oysters for pearls. And she does giveaway contests. And as part of the giveaway contest, these past couple of weeks, it's been a smartwatch up for grabs. I'm seeing it and I'm thinking to myself, they're nice smartwatches, they're cool. It would be cool for me to have one, sync it up with my phone, fiddle with it, especially since I can't keep my phone fully hands-free in things while I drive. So she let me know about that and did everything. I shared the stream on my Facebook, and she always has good pearls. They look fantastic and great value. So then it came time for the smartwatch giveaway. She shuffles up the names. It's in a bucket. She has her mom draw them. Out of the blue, there's mine. My name. I check in. She validates. All of a sudden, I have a smartwatch. Should be coming to me within the next couple of days. Couple days later, we're talking. She enters another contest. She wins. She wins a new mod, like a gigantic battery for vaping. So she agreed to send me the old one. Completely out of the blue. So I wondered, through all this time, what was going on with this particular stretch? What was up? Well, it come to find out, my answer would come twofold. First, my last day at work before 4-day weekend, last Friday, the woman who runs the on-site cafeteria, we talk from time to time, because on days it's usually a little slow by the time I get down there. So we have good conversations, different food and all this and that. We get to know each other a little bit. She's very friendly. So as I'm on my break last Friday, she's standing out waiting for a ride. So we get to talking, different plans and things like that, and I knew she'd already set aside some key lime pie for me, which, with like a strawberry glaze on top, graham cracker crust, whipped cream, fucking delicious. And a package with 2 slices. I mean, you can't beat that for the price. But there was that. But on top of that, without even me knowing it, she sets aside some hummus and pita crackers. Now, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance to eat them, but she wrote a little message saying, set this aside for you. Now, to her credit, she was being very friendly, leading nothing towards, at least in my mind. Then when she gave me a big hug and rubbed up and down my back, I questioned things in my mind and immediately thought, okay, is this another conundrum? Could I potentially angle this into a threesome? Should I try to angle this into a threesome? Which, that one's rhetorical because it's an automatic yes, but it was weird timing because this happened to be June 30th, the end of the second quarter of the year. Right at the time where I have to reevaluate all of my conundrums. So, right as things were okay, one doing well, one fine up in Seattle, everything kind of smoothing out, right at the death, this happens. So I'm forced to sit and rethink things yet again on a deeper level. And if that wasn't a weird enough start to my weekend, things really got weird back towards the end of it. Seeing birthday notifications on Facebook, and even though it wasn't her birthday, one random name came up. Name of a girl that I used to work with at my day job. She's since gone on and left for another department. It's good for her. Saw her a couple of times still at some of the company parties. Yeah, they got a picture of her where she was flat out wasted, and I'll admit, yeah, it was a bit of a crush there. Tiny, petite, couple years younger than me. Good personality, overall a good package. But when I saw her at a company party, the last time I saw her, where she was with a guy old enough to be her father, pretty much picture yourself as, Milton from Office Space, yet he had it all there upstairs, and he was a teeny bit fatter. Think of that guy. That was her boyfriend at that time. So, with these fresh memories, I do an extremely rare instance of Facebook stalking. I go through, I scroll through her timeline, all her videos and stuff, and I keep seeing these pictures of a kid, and I wonder why. So I keep scrolling. Turns out that's her kid. And baby daddy, a lot of the pictures too, he was even older than the guy that I saw at the Christmas party. Another tall man, gray hair, glasses, not as portly, still older man. Not just old enough to be her father, old enough to be my father. Seeing all of those and knowing that it had been that long, we're talking multiple years at this point, since I've seen her, since I've talked with her, done anything, it just bitch smacked me. I can still feel the glittering powder on my face right now as I even talk about this. But all that time, and I think back, laughing, joking, walking, my best friend admittedly throwing me under the bus to try to ask her out, which didn't pan out. And I'd realized I was in no fucking way her type. Nowhere near old enough. Still kind of boggles my mind. Especially because she's not any of the sugar baby type or anything like that, but that's a story for another day. Everything just turned into this metaphysical temporal Ouroboros. I kept circling around and around and around in my mind, and I could never come up with anything solid as to how any of this happened. How this long passed without me knowing, without me doing anything, with this connection just being severed. And it's weird because I examine that with a lot of moments in my life. A lot of things. Where I realize it's been so many years since I've done something or said something or, more importantly, been somewhere. Is this what songs talk about? Is this what our elders remind us of? The distortion about years being less of your life mathematically with pie charts and everything as you get older, is this a consequence? Have I unknowingly or unwittingly created this bubble that I move in? Am I riding this train? Being introspective is just speeds through the tunnels of the temporal subway system. Is this how it's supposed to go? Because if it is, honestly, I want to get off for a little while. I want to take a break. Go back to, like, the time for my birthday at the fort. I get to sit and enjoy time on my own terms. Sit back and observe and think. Rather than just be donkey punched by something like this. Is it wrong for me to want control? Is it wrong for me to want things to slow down at least a little bit? Or allow me to separate from myself into these things? Not to explore the branches or the sliding doors, but to evaluate where things are in the now. Ask myself, how did I get here? Spit in the eye of the arrow of time. Defy the law of entropy. Just for a moment. Not even to go backwards, but to be stagnant. To allow me to do a few things before it marches on and I'm off to do whatever it is. But just a little bit to make up things. Try to figure out myself a little bit. I think I deserve it. I think, as you're listening to this, think about it. Because you might wind up deserving it too. Time's not going to give it to you. Time certainly doesn't give two shits. Do that for yourself, though. Because I'm realizing after all these years and all these things and what's coming up with the people in my life, marriages, children, there's me. With my job, with my writing, with this. Time. Never thought it would sneak up on me like this, and well, now it's hit me upside the head. Well played, time. I'm gonna get you back for this one, but well played. Now for my final segment. Chess. I'm not an avid chess player. I know how to set up a board. I know how pieces move. But for the in-depth strategies, I'm not a Bobby Fischer. I'm not a Gary Kasparov. No way in hell will I be a grandmaster. But I understand the subtle nuances of this. And every time you see it in different games on TV, baseball, basketball, football, they always say it turns into a chess match. But it's not during the games. It's during the seasons, during the year. On a smaller scale, Big Three responded, getting all 4 games in a 3-hour window. They cut the scoring from 30 at the half, 60 to win, to 25 at the half, 50 to win. I would like more time to adjust, but I'm giving it a shot. After a week, it wasn't bad. In the response to players getting hurt, one missing the season, referees called a tighter game. Again, time to adjust. I'm not going to like this as much, but I'm going to keep watching. This will probably be like UFC. I loved it in the early days where there were no rules because it was different from boxing, and now it's just become a more evolved form than boxing. And with better judges. Especially in the case of the Manny Pacquiao-Jeff Horn fight. Don't even get me started on that one. I'll spare you all for now. I'm putting you through enough as is. But with the concept of a chess match, it's about thinking ahead. Be it a move, be it 5 moves, or in the case of Deep Blue, millions of moves. Now, with free agency in the NBA, therein lies the chess match. Everybody's moving to get the exact pieces that they want. The most recent big one, Gordon Hayward, going to Boston after having the whole Twitter conversation entirely in emojis. It was featured on SportsCenter. But that's just the latest move. The one move that I knew that would start the true chaos was Paul George announcing that he would be leaving Indiana after this upcoming season. The minute I saw that blurb, I knew all hell was going to break loose. It would be an instant race. The general managers would sit in front of their boards, study their opponents so carefully. Move their bishops, move their rooks, move their knights. Get their bigs. Keep their guards intact. Get their system, move around their winged defenders, etc. Well, George wound up going to Oklahoma City. That spurred off other moves. Chris Paul to Houston, Jimmy Butler to Minnesota. Millsap heading west. Now even guys like Zach Randolph going to Sacramento. Otto Portner signing big deals. Kevin Durant taking less money. Iguodala coming back. Curry with the Supermax. All of this is a gigantic chess move. Every general manager, it seems, except maybe Danny Ainge, maybe, was looking for those couple of pieces and sitting and calculating which exact moves to make. And I'm telling you right now, we're not done. Summer League has started up. Teams are starting to make it to Vegas. That's going to be some real fun. But with all the foreign players and all the big trades, I noticed that it's all a big chess game. Beautifully played. You can argue the balance of power going to the Western Conference. But that leads to a move that no one's thinking about. Now, there's been talk of the NFL scrapping conferences and scrapping divisions and going to just a top 16 playoff. That could balance the ebb and flow and the cyclical nature of the league. East dominant, Then throughout the 80s, it was your Lakers and your Celtics, then your Pistons. Then the East became dominant again with your Bulls. Then West, and it stayed West. Lakers, Spurs, Pistons winning one year in a miracle. Cleveland now with LeBron back, but it's mostly Boston. Miami with LeBron. But the problem would be scheduling. And here's what I suggest. For Adam Silver to create the ultimate chess move. Change the playoffs to a top 16, but change the scheduling. Instead of having East and West, where everybody only plays each other home and away, and then the bulk of your games against division opponents 4 or 5 times a year. No. You have a 30-team league. Everybody starts off playing each other once, home and away again. That's 58. So you have 24 games to play with. Have 12 Eastern teams, 12 Western teams. You play each other the one extra game. Rotate it on an annual basis depending on travel, however you may. But make it easier. Make everybody have to go more the long flights, rather than giving the advantage to the West. An hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, rarely going past 5. Your Eastern teams, for the bulk of them along the seaboard, fine, except you're traveling north-south. And then your teams like New Orleans and Memphis and those funky teams that are in the West, have them with easier scheduling advantage, easier flights. You can rebalance off days, things like that. You could still, if you wanted to, have an East-West All-Star game, but imagine an all-star game set up like the NHL did. Or like the NFL did for a couple of years. Have your 2 legends and Hall of Famers pick their teams in a fantasy draft. Do you have any idea the kind of votes that we get for the NBA? Adam, I'm just saying. You've done a good job, but with these rumors float around these ideas. Just be sure to give me credit, of course. But look into that. And for the NFL, you've got your own chess matches going on. What's coming up as the off-season comes to a close? You got training camps. Individual teams have their chess match. Who's going to make that starting roster? Who's in the early lead not to get cut now that we have the whole preseason to evaluate you? How are we going to do with these joint scrimmages, OTAs and training camps with preseason coming up? The deal with Tom Brady and what Giselle said about concussions and his artful yet careful response. Saying next to nothing. Jimmy Garoppolo, these chess matches are going on. Another cowboy getting arrested. I know my awesome producer Sean's going to hate to hear that, but unfortunately, what else is new? But I say this. Everybody talks about scheduling. Everybody's floated around the idea of an 18-game schedule. And how the league wouldn't do it because they're holding fast and firm to starting the regular season after Labor Day and changing and moving it. No. There's a chess move that Goodell and all the owners could play. Make that 18-game schedule. Some have floated the idea of shortening to 13-minute quarters. I'd be fine. General managers have said they need 3 preseason games to evaluate players. Well, no, if you hold more joint scrimmages and joint practices like you're doing, and this time leading up to training camp, do that. You only have to make 1 cut now from 90 to 53. You're doing it anyways, make it easier on yourselves. But for the league, take back Labor Day weekend or the week before it. Everyone talks about this great schism between the NFL and college football. That would still remain, with colleges needing to recruit to win to satisfy boosters and fans and athletic directors, appease the playoff committee before it expands, even after. Getting your top players doing what you can to win in the now. When a lot of NFL franchises, they get to sit back and wait. But for college football, they would still have their Saturdays. High school football would still have their Fridays. And if the NFL would finally decide to nut up and get rid of Thursday night football, give the idea to Monday night, have the special uniforms on Monday night instead of Thursday. They would sell better. You would gain a compromise with ESPN if throwing in, instead of all divisional matchups, have everybody appear maybe once in a season. You could still have your high-profile games, and then some teams could still appear twice, depending on how things lay. Because let's face it, NFL, ESPN, you two haven't gotten along for many years now. Maybe if this happens, it'll bury the hatchet. And then you could get to that 18-game schedule where you can take back Labor Day weekend and the weekend before it. You wouldn't steal the thunder from college football. Everybody's still going to talk about, can Alabama win again? What's wrong with the rest of the SEC? Who's going to make noise in the Pac-12? Is the Big Ten back to where it was? People will still have those conversations. And as fans, we'd all be happy. I see another meme about this being the last month without football, even though I personally disagree. I mean, come on. Make the chess move, NFL. And if you're so worried about traveling, make your regular season all within conference. Division teams would still play twice, and then you play once against everybody else in your conference. So you could end the debate about a first place schedule versus a last place schedule, and not have to worry about your rotations for interconference matchups. You know how much hype this would create for a Super Bowl, truly the best of the best? The kind of dream scenarios people would have during the season all would be coming to flourish. Believe it or not, you're on a cycle yourselves. NFL, AFL, through the 80s and 90s, the NFC winning 13 straight Super Bowls, outscoring the AFC 433 to 89. Now with the Patriots and the Steelers, the AFC is a bit more dominant conference since 01. Come on, NFL, you're sitting on a pretty big nugget here. 2-18 Labor Day weekend games. Canada does it, so can you. Imagine what you would be able to take advantage of those holidays. Sold out stadiums, and especially if you decide to do night games that weekend to help with the weather. Roger, come on. explore the idea for yourselves. Even if you don't do it, lay out a pattern that at least says you tried. But I'm going to know if it's half-assed. I'll be keeping an eye on it, but let's give the fans what we want and what we used to have. Make that move. Move that rook. Get yourself another queen. We're trying to. But alas, we have reached the end. Hope I made you think a little bit. I know I am. But if you want more of this podcast, go on W2Mnet.com, Stitcher, Spreaker, iTunes. Get with Sean to see about something with Google Play if we're not there already. If you think I'm weird, if you want to clap back on some of the stuff I said tonight, I'm at Squid Sportshead. You can even read my soccer articles and the previews for the Gold Cup, which we'll be talking about on Soccer to the Max, with my awesome producer at W2M Sean. But just question things a little bit. Let's all play a little chess. Let's all give ourselves a little bit of time. But as we do that, always remember, do your homework, and don't forget to be awesome.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.